Alright guys, welcome to day 2. Well, really I guess it would be day 3, because day 1 was your quiz, day 2 was intro to vertebrates, ectothermic invertebrates, and then fish, and now day 3 is your amphibians. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Amphibians are a really cool group of vertebrates, so let's go ahead and get started. First things first, don't forget you have a test scheduled for Tuesday, May the 5th. At 10:30 a.m. You have to show up via Zoom. I will not be doing makeup tests unless I hear of an emergency from your parents. But otherwise, I will not be doing makeup tests. That being said, because of the quiz grades from the arthropod quiz that we just took, I realized that because you guys haven't had as many grades put in for my class as you normally would as if we were together, you haven't had a whole lot of buffer for your grades. So like some of you who had 90s, if you accidentally missed your quiz, you got dropped down to like a 70 something. So what I decided to do is as a grace for the entire class, for your fourth quarter, at the end of the quarter, I will drop your lowest quiz/lab grade. So it will be either your lowest quiz or your lowest lab grade. I'm only doing it for that section. Don't ask me to do it for your test. Don't ask me to do it for homework. I'm just doing it for quiz grades. So just be sure that when you look at your grade, if you've got, a 70 on a quiz and then 100 in a lab, just know that your lowest quiz grade is going to get dropped. Let's get started with amphibians. So many live part of their life on land, and then part of their life in water. So a classic example is going to be like tadpoles, right? So tadpoles, they begin their life in the water, and then they're slowly going to grow into grown adult frogs and move out onto land. They are tetrapods, so they have 4 limbs, and there's going to be 3 orders of them. There's going to be frogs, caecilians, and salamanders. And the names next to it that you see, the Anura, Gymnophiona, and Caudata is going to be its genus name. So they're divided into, their order name. So it's divided into those 3 orders. Alright, so your amphibian structure, they have really thin, moist, and highly permeable skin. Permeable skin means that they can absorb anything and everything through their skin. That is why amphibians are a good indicator whether or not you have really pure soil or not. Earthworms are another one, because they also have permeable skin. But if you have lots of frogs in your backyard and stuff, it means that they like being back there, and it also means that you don't have any chemicals that are going to be harmful to them. Chemicals that we spray, like pesticides, mosquito sprays, and all of that, amphibians are able to absorb all of that through their highly permeable skin. So they absorb it through their skin, and depending on what it is, it can actually kill them. So they actually use their skin in order to breathe. They use it for respiration. If you've ever noticed that frogs look kind of wet everywhere they go, it's because they have mucus that secretes from their skin to keep their skin nice and moist and protect the skin from any harsh elements. Some amphibians use what's called buccal pumping. Buccal means your cheeks, so they use their cheeks to move air into the lungs. So, we use our chest, but more specifically, we actually use our diaphragms to breathe. Whereas, in tandem with our lungs, of course. But when you watch us breathe, either your chest rises or right on the top of your belly rises when you breathe. It's actually correct breathing through your diaphragm. So the top of your belly should be moving when you breathe, but most of us actually just breathe through our chest. So that's a little singing tip for you. But frogs and amphibians use buccal pumping. So what they do is they go, they use their cheeks to move air in and out of the lungs. We don't do this. My cheeks don't move when I breathe, just my chest or my diaphragm. They have a 3-chambered heart, so they have 2 atria and 1 ventricle. Atria draws blood away from the heart. Ventricles brings blood to the heart. Way to remember that is atria starts with an A. Away also starts with an A. So atria, blood away, ventricle, blood in. Most adult amphibians are carnivorous, so they eat lots of bugs. They eat meat, bug meat. So these guys are ectothermic. They are going to enter into a state of what's called torpor. During some seasons of the year, this means physical inactivity. So if you ever see amphibians that kind of are just staying still, if you ever see amphibians that are staying still, they're not really active, it's important not to mess with them too much. A lot of people will do that where they'll see that a frog's not moving and they'll like poke it with a stick or something. Sometimes that's just because it's freezing because it feels threatened. Other times it's because it's actually in a state of torpor. So it's actually trying to conserve energy by not being as physically active. When they do this for a long period of time, it's called estivating. So that means that they have torpor or dormancy during a hot or a dry period. And then we have hibernating, which y'all know what that is, which means they spend the winter in a completely dormant state. There actually are some frogs that they've seen freeze over for an entire winter, like in an ice block, and they actually restart their hearts after being frozen. Like the frog is able to restart its heart. Pretty crazy. I'll look it up and get back to you on that. So with amphibians, larvae look very different from their parents. So they undergo metamorphosis just like bugs do. So classic example is going to be your tadpoles. So they start off as these like little eggs, and then they are like all squirmy and cute looking. And if you've ever kept tadpoles, you know that they slowly start to develop those creepy little legs on their backside. Then they have the tail that they're supposed to lose. So they eventually develop into a beautiful frog that we know and love. So they undergo metamorphosis. A classic example that I want to talk about is the green tree frog, and I forgot to include a picture here, but most likely you know what a green tree frog looks like. It is a green frog that often resides in trees, and it's very, very common in America, but especially in Charleston, South Carolina. Its favorite spot is Charleston, South Carolina. So I want to encourage you to maybe go out into your back or your front yard, look on your doors and your windows. I know that they've already started coming out at nighttime, especially at my house, and they just hang out on the doors and the windows. I actually have poop on my windows from them. And take a picture of a tree frog if you find it, because I would love to see it. So these guys are really cool. They have suction cups on their feet, and that's why they're able to stick really, really well on doors and windows. They like to mate during the rainy season, so when it's around May and June, when it starts to rain really hard, they will mate and lay their eggs, and then you'll have even more green tree frogs. So if you have a lot of them around your house, that's probably a good indication of what we talked about earlier, which is their permeable skin. It's probably a good indication that you have a pretty cool house to hang around. So go ahead, try to find a green tree frog and send us a picture.